Mr. True Nightmares, Episode 35. We moved around a lot when we were young, around 9, 10 years old. Witness protection, spending most of our childhood wandering around and hotels, or if we were lucky, buying a house for a short time before moving elsewhere. I remember one night, shortly after we settled into a new house in Alberta. I was in bed. It was midnight. Everyone was asleep, and this is often the case with new homes. It took me a long time to fall asleep. I like to understand the night sounds of how freaking, your duck, etc. But tonight, something happened at my mother, and I still talk about it today. I was lying in bed around 1:00 a.m. when I heard my mom calling me from the kitchen, so I jumped out of bed and poked my head out of the bedroom and started walking down the corridor towards the kitchen. The only light in the room was on. The only light in the house was the kitchen light. As I walked down the corridor, right past my brother's bedroom door, and my parents heard my mom calling me again from the kitchen. At this point, I was no more than 3 steps away from the kitchen door at the end of the hallway when I heard my mom from the bedroom saying, "Go back to bed." I heard it too. At some point, I became terrified and ran to my room and hid under the blanket. I closed my eyes tightly and tried to believe that something unreal was happening. However, I could not keep the silence any longer. Suddenly, a live scream was heard from my mother's bedroom, and the doors to the other rooms opened. My brothers and fathers sleepily went out into the corridor. My mother began to explain in a trembling voice that she had seen something fleeing my family, and I tried to explain the presence my mother had seen. In some way, we decided to find out about the history of the house we had just moved into. We talked to the neighbors to find out about the strange event that had happened to the previous owners of the house. After the event, all the family members in the house started to feel uncomfortable at night. We were experiencing noises, shadows, and strange light. My mother said that she felt the presence of something that was somehow connected to that house. We had to start looking for another house, but what we experienced after that night was unforgettable. The more mysterious the house became, the deeper the strange event became. One night, I remember waking up and seeing a figure standing in the opposite corner of the room, looking towards me. However, his face was covered with shadows, and I could only feel a distinct coldness. At night, I began to see a shadow sitting, known face each time. It will slowly raise its head and look at me, then disappear with a sad smile. These events began to frighten my family even more. One day we started to hear strange noises in the basement of the house. What the screams and strange murmurs. These noises kept us awake all night. Only one who dared to go down to the basement. However, when she opened the basement door, she saw something climbing rapidly upward. Her face was expressionless, eyes shining brightly. This dark presence inside the house was poisoning our family's life. One night, my mom and dad went into a strange trance, started attacking each other. During a terrible fight, my father strangled my mother to death. Then he committed suicide by hanging himself. After these horrific events, my siblings and I were forced to flee the house, but the shadow figure that had been following us seemed to have reached our new home, and every night in the corner of my bedroom, it looked at me with the same sad smile. Fear had become a part of our lives, and this shadow figure would not leave us alone. After days of fear, the mystery in the house deepened. My brothers and I had made a new start, but this mysterious presence continued to follow us. One night, a strange light appeared in the house. My brother's body was suspended in the air. circling around this light. As my brother screamed helplessly, the light began to suck him slowly. At that moment, strange symbols began to appear in the room. My brother's body seemed to be trapped inside these symbols. A mysterious energy filled the room, slowly tearing my brother apart and disappearing. It left behind only a void filled with mysterious symbols. Doubt. We looked at each other in horror. After this mysterious event, the disappearance of our brother left a deep impression on us. During the night, the house was filled with strange noises and shattered. This event shattered our family and drove us to a mental breakdown. Over the years, the mysterious entity continued to follow us in each new play. This dark entity from our past was taking over members of our family one by one. Anytime we were reminded of the symbols left behind by the horrific events as part of this mysterious story.